You guys must have known this episode was coming. We have to talk about Alex Pereira's power. The fact that he can touch people, like dangerous fighters like Jamal Hill, and just put them out cold in one shot. Today we're going to discuss if that kind of power can be recreated, what he has that other fighters don't, and a little breakdown of his victory over Jamal Hill at UFC 300. There's nothing quite as motivating as seeing an elite fighter like Alex Pereira with his power or Manny Pacquiao with his speed to go, oh, I want to work on those things. When I used to watch Pacquiao, I would go in and I'd be hitting the bag just trying to really get that raw, fast little speed. When I watch Pereira, I'm like, okay, I want to practice sitting down my shots and just crank them in. But the reality is, and this might be a little bit of a disappointment for many of you out there, but the reality is, some people are born very fast. Some people are born very powerful. Now, what we can do as individuals is get faster or get more powerful, more strength. But that does not mean we're ever going to match the genetically gifted individuals out there who just have something that 99.9% of the population do not. So first of all, let's talk about why Pereira has so much power and small things that we might be able to do to increase our own power. Number one, there was a study done a long time ago, back with the Nazis actually, I believe, where they were talking about, okay, where does a tendon connect on the bone? And they were finding out that the different points of connection would actually give people more power. From what I understand, they actually did some experimenting on disconnecting or removing, I guess, tendons from certain spots and trying to attach them somewhere else onto the bones. Apparently it was a failure, the whole experiment. But when we have somebody who has this genetic power, it could be simply that. And I can actually speak to the power that some people have because my brother, not the one who's normally in my corner, Aaron, but my brother Jacob, he hits so hard. People ask me often, Gabriel, what are the hardest sparring rounds, the hardest rounds you've ever done? I'm like, with my brother. He's one of those people that when he hits a pad, he can full on, it makes me feel like my shoulder, if I don't hold it in the right way, is going to get torn. Or my shoulder's gonna get pulled out of its socket or something like that. And what's different about him? Well, number one, density of the bones. When he was born, my mom used to say, he's so heavy. He's so much heavier than everybody else. Even though he looked the same size as a little kid or a baby, he had that, oh, this little kid is heavy. And then he might just have that component where the tendon connects to a certain point in the bone, which is just better for him creating that raw power. And it doesn't matter what it is. It was his hooks, his uppercuts, his straight punches. He just had something. Now with Pereira, I'm expecting that yes, he has some of those gifts. In addition, we have to remember as well that this dude has been living in Brazil, most likely in poverty and just physically going all the time. While many of us were in university or college or high school, and we're sitting down for 6, 7, 8, 9, 12 hours a day trying to get an education, this guy was probably doing something physical. All that is going to help. But in addition, Pereira has a few things which he does which are going to help him create a little bit of extra power. Number one, he holds his hands down here. And when you punch at this angle coming upwards or straight across, you're coming straight across because he's a tall dude. You don't have to keep your hands high and come downwards or change angles. I think that helps him quite a bit. Now, what are some things that we could do if we're trying to be like, oh, why does Pereira hit so hard? A theory of mine is hand strength and hand durability, how tight you can squeeze but still maintain speed. Because even though Pereira is one of the hardest hitters in the world, and he was on one of those power cubes and apparently outstruck Francis Ngannou, Tom Aspinall, the UFC interim champion, his power was nowhere close. I'm not 100% sure I believe striking power component of those types of things. But when we see Pereira throw, he really leans in, he whips his arm, he gets a whole bunch of power and leverage and really throws his body in technically the same way that a baseball player might whip his arm, right? It's not baseball like this. they get here and their arm is way back there when you see him slow motion, the shoulders in front, boom. He gets a good torque, his arm's behind, and then he connects with that big power. But I think the ability to keep a hand squeezed, still maintain very good speed as Pereira can, because yes, he is fast. He's not a heavyweight who's kind of like, ugh. He still gets that snap, that whip, and being able to control his hand, which is massive. If you've ever seen his hands, they are big. So I think being able to strengthen here, but maintain a little bit of flexibility, a little bit of elastic-like motion in the arm is gonna help create that big smashing power which we see. If you want to do some type of hand training drills, you could work on squeezing things, getting some of those little devices that you really fatigue your hand. I saw something the other day with Gennady Golovkin, Triple G, who's also one of the hardest hitters at his weight class, flipping a kettlebell back and forward, working on grip strength and forearm strength. That really surprised me, how difficult that was, how I was unable to flip a 31-pound kettlebell. All those factors will play in greatly to the success which Alex Pereira had at UFC 300. Now, when we see him, like, this is pretty much a one-punch knockout. He did a couple little setups early on, moved his head off the center line, touched the body, but then all he pretty much ends up doing when he's facing Jamal Hill is he takes a little step out to the side, he fakes across, and then he unwinds his left hook, or it's kind of like an uppercut. It's not really an uppercut, it's not really a hook, it's kind of some hybrid thing in between on a 45-degree angle, but he preloads his shoulder as he steps, and then he's able to unwind and deliver with enormous amounts of force. In addition, when you watch him, you can see that his back foot is not really heavy on the ground, so he shifts a lot of weight from side to side as he punches, which is something to consider as well. You can play around with what your body is doing with the footwork. If I want to create a lot of power going this direction, going forward, I can shift my weight up here and it might help me. Technically, there are downsides to that, of course. Having all your weight over one side or the other side is not going to be as balanced as having 50-50. But again, Pereira is a little bit of an anomaly and he can break rules. He can do things incorrectly, like throw with his hands down and not get tagged, or throw low kicks and not rotate the hips. There's these technically wrong things which he gets away with. Should everybody do it like him? I don't know about that. Unless you're somebody with that God-given power, maybe it's not for you. But it sure is fun to experiment, to test, and to just go into the gym and see, oh, do I feel like I'm hitting harder by making these little changes, by shifting my weight, by doing some power training for my hands, by trying to squeeze really tight here, but maintain a little bit of loose arm up here. Look, guys, I was as impressed as you at the 300 knockout. Like, I didn't think he was gonna get a knockout that fast. I was blown away. He just touched him and he went down. But let's remember that 9 out of 10 times that probably does not happen that much. Jamal Hill also made a big error. He was standing in position. He went to throw his counter cross, which just missed. Like, it just missed, but he brought his other hand down. Right? He leaned in a little bit for the counter cross. He didn't have his other hand up, so he had no protection. Mistakes defensively made it a little bit easier. But Pereira, what can you say about the guy aside from what a beast, what a monster, what a specimen with that power that he has, with everything he's accomplished? Look, I was on, I think, his first Glory fight event. I was there also competing. I don't actually have my trophy here that I won that night for the 4-man tournament, but he fought for the first time on Glory against Artem Levin, and he didn't win that fight. And I remember watching going, this Brazilian guy's pretty good, but I'm not that impressed by him. And he's just got better and better and better and better and bigger and better. And it's just phenomenal to watch, especially with the transition from sports. And I do think that the small gloves just make him that much scarier. You just touch people and they drop. So Pereira's power, can it be recreated? Probably not, right? There's very few people like my brother who just have this crushing power and they're just born with it. But we can still all improve our power try to make maybe these little adjustments where we're going, okay, I'm gonna try and be a little bit more whippy with my shoulder coming forward, have the hand a little bit behind like a baseball player, and max out that power. Maybe I do some training for my grip strength, my hand, make everything here a little bit stronger so it never actually has to be relaxed and loose. When I land, it's like a little ball of concrete just thudding in to my opponent. All these small things will help us. But if you want that God-given power, I think you just got to wrap your head around, we don't have it. Man, if I had it, I would have all these belts plus a whole assortment of other ones. I would just be rolling through everybody. I have to rely more on my cardio, my technique, my brain power. Add another 50, 60% power in these, oh my gosh, I would love it. But I have to recognize that it's probably not gonna happen for me. Still, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I'm very much looking forward to Alex Pereira's next fight. Every time he fights now, I'm going, yep, I'm blocking that evening off and I'm gonna be watching. Thank you for joining, guys. As always, train hard. I will see you back here soon for another video.